The year is 2004 and the PlayStation 2 is the undisputed king of the living room or basement. Revenge of the Sith is still a year away, and Star Wars gaming is kind of in a weird place. By this point, there have been games focused on playing as a Jedi, starfighter, shooters, and RPGs. But the one role that had always eluded game makers was the role of the common soldier. Sometimes you didn't want to play as Luke or Han Solo. Sometimes you just wanted to be that random rebel trooper in the background of Hoth, who desperately tries to hold the line against a AT-AT. Star Wars is a franchise which, beneath all the Chosen One monologue and Jedi duels, is about war. I mean, the word is in the title after all. And in just about every film, there was a major battle taking place, sometimes multiple. And no game up to that point really captured the feeling of being immersed in a battle quite like Battlefront. Today we're dusting off the DualShock controller and untangling those pesky AV cables and taking a look back at the game that finally allowed us to live out our grunt simulator dreams. This is a retrospective of the original Star Wars Battlefront for the PlayStation 2. As I was saying earlier, before 2004, if you played any Star Wars game, you were usually playing the role as the Chosen One. You had the plot armor of a main character in an anime show, and you were the hero that was going to save the galaxy. But over on the PC, a developer by the name of DICE had changed the shooter landscape with Battlefield 1942. This game is best remembered for popularizing the conquest mode we know today, which featured massive maps, vehicle warfare, and a focus on draining the enemy's ticket counter. Upon noting the success of Battlefield, LucasArts adopted the idea as the foundation for Battlefront. They basically said, oh, let's do that, but give it lasers. For this game, they handed the keys to Pandemic Studios, a company who didn't try reinventing the wheel, they just painted the wheel to look like a Death Star. The concept was simple enough. Drop the player into the biggest battles from the film, give them a blaster, and tell them to capture a command post. Essentially, that's what the game is. Of course, there are plenty of things that prevent you from capturing the command posts, such as enemy soldiers, barriers, turrets, enemy vehicles, and in some cases, traps. Star Wars Battlefront would be created using the Zero engine, which was the engine that Pandemic used for their earlier strategy action hybrids like Battlezone 2, Combat Commander, and Dark Reign. The Zero engine would be retooled for consoles such as the PS2 by overhauling the engine to handle large-scale battles with dozens of AI units, all while maintaining a playable frame rate. The battles of Battlefront are hectic and chaotic, with the sounds of screaming casualties flying about the air. Much of the scripting done here included the capture point mechanic, mission flows that were pretty easy to tweak in the long run. It's more of a reason why this game has such a thriving modding community to this day. When I first picked this game up back in the day, I was immensely taken in by how accurate and detailed the maps were. It really did feel like you were in the film, and the more you played, the more you felt immersed in the various storylines of the films as well. But of course, if you don't care about any of that, the game still serves as a good shooter experience. This game didn't bog you down with a overcomplicated tutorial, and that's what makes Battlefront such a classic game, its accessibility. You spawn in, see a red beam of light coming from the ground, and you run toward it to turn it green. That was it. That was the loot. The class system for the game was rigid to say the least, seeing as how you couldn't upgrade units or give them any special talent or something else. Regardless, I think we can still appreciate the simplicity. You are either a sniper, a heavy trooper, pilot, or just a regular soldier. Gameplay has the player moving in a strife-style movement while shooting and dodging enemy fire. Players are given a primary and secondary weapon to switch from, while also being able to lob the occasional grenade. If you're looking for a classic third-person shooter experience which keeps you on your feet, look no further. The simplicity of the gameplay serves very well with the intricately designed maps that allow players to take cover and place themselves in strategic points. And the map design by Pandemic here was masterfully done. Sure, we had the wide open plains of Naboo, which served as a key sniper spot, but you also had the intensely claustrophobic hallways of the Bespin platforms, a map where a well-placed grenade could clear an entire bridge. One of Battlefront's key offerings is the ability for the player to select between 5 different classes of soldiers, each of which will have a primary and secondary weapon or tool, explosives, and supplies along with different functions. You have your typical infantry soldier who is equipped with your standard assault rifle that will honestly be your go-to class in any given situation. For taking out enemy vehicles and special forces, you can select the heavy trooper who carries an equipped rocket launcher and mines. Next you have the sniper class that can take out enemies from afar and scout areas out with their automatic droid. And next you have the pilot class, who can repair health and supply droids while also repairing vehicles and also providing additional health and ammo to others. And lastly you have the specialty class, which varies between factions. This class is typically better equipped with more advanced weaponry and advanced features. For example, the Wookiee class comes with a specialty crossbow laser along with a grenade launcher. If you choose the CIS, you get the power of the awe-inspiring Droidekas, which features a roll for mobility and a shield for protection. And I have to mention the heroes, particularly those pesky Jedis. Unfortunately, this game you don't have the option of playing as a Jedi, which makes sense since the whole point of the game is to play the role of a frontline soldier, but it still would have been nice to have the option, seeing as how the Jedis used in the AI are basically unkillable. If instant action wasn't the appetizer, Galactic Conquest mode was the main course. What better way to break up the monotony of the campaign mode than Galactic Conquest? In this mode, you move your fleet across the galaxy and invade different planets, while at the same time unlocking different bonuses. Fans of Star Wars will get a kick out of using their favorite faction to invade and take over the galaxy. Nostalgia is a powerful drug. If we take off the rose-tinted helmet for a second, we can admit that the original Battlefront did have some issues. Since the game came out on 3 different platforms, there are some inconsistencies between the different versions. As you can probably guess, the Xbox and PC versions of the game are much sharper and handle online multiplayer modes much better than the PlayStation 2. Whereas the PlayStation 2 version features some muddy textures, foggy draw distances, and quirky frame rates. Regardless of which version you play, players will have to deal with the quirky AI. The AI bots, well, they are impressively stupid. Friendlies will stand directly in your line of fire, and enemies will sometimes run past you to get to a command post. There were times when I actually thought I was outsmarting an enemy, but in reality I was wrangling a bunch of digital cows. There's also the lack of a sprint button, which was pretty hard to adapt to when playing this game and getting footage. I was pretty used to the controls in Battlefront 2, so often I would hold down the sprint button to no avail. The lack of a sprint action can really make the gameplay feel slow and bogged down. Combine this with the mediocre to average shooter mechanics, the game can get a little tedious at times. The shooting is sometimes accurate, but at the same time it can feel very loose. It's more like spraying blaster bolts in a general direction than precision aiming. Despite the lack in AI, the muddy graphics, and lack of sprinting, the original Battlefront was and still is a high-quality action title. It captured the specific feeling of battling in the fictional Star Wars universe to a T. And most importantly, it laid the groundwork for the sequel just 1 year later, which many consider the pinnacle of the series. For PS2 owners like myself in 2004, this was the closest we could get to stepping inside the movies. It wasn't perfect, of course, but was pure. It was unfiltered Star Wars fun. But if I were to recommend a version of this game, it would be the PC version, as the controls function extremely well using the mouse and keyboard bindings. That concludes this retrospective look at Star Wars Battlefront. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in learning more about the classic video games from the PlayStation 2 and OG Xbox era, be sure to check out some of my other retrospective videos on my channel, Smoking Fiend Productions. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you want to tell me about your memories of Battlefront in the comments, I would much appreciate that. Thanks for watching, y'all. Until next time, may the Force be with you.